This is Retirement Roadmap Radio with Mark Fricks of Master Plan Retirement Consultants. Listen in as we address your retirement concerns and provide insight to help put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, Retirement Roadmap Radio.
Hey folks, welcome back to Retirement Roadmap. My name is Evan. I'm with Master Plan Retirement Consultants. With me as always, financial advisor and retirement planner Mark Fricks. Mark, how are we today?
Oh, we're great. Having a great week. And I always love this time of the week when we sit down to record and to share, just what's happening in the world of retirement, finances. We try to stay up to date, current events, and I think we have a pretty current event today.
Yeah, today is all about everyone's favorite topic, and that is taxes. Specifically, that right now, taxes happen to be on sale. Well, what do we mean by that? Mark, could you give us the significance of our current tax situation right now in the United States?
Yeah, so, we don't really think of it this way, but taxes are on sale. That's right. There should be a big blue light or a big red flag or something flying. But a little bit of history here. So back, the current tax system came into being in 1913, and they started off, the top bracket was 6%. Really miss those days, don't I? But I think very quickly climbed to up above 60% for the. Now that was the top bracket, so not everybody paid that, but there were people that paid that, and then it kind of floundered between 50 and 70, 50 and 80. It dropped for a while before the Great Depression, and then quickly shot up because of the job programs they had to pay for, and really from about the Great Depression until really the early 80s. It stayed in the 60 to 90% range, if you can believe that. And that, again, was the top bracket. But the story came out of from the early days of Ronald Reagan. Whether you're a fan or not, that's up to you. But this is fact. He was an actor during the 40s and 50s. That was his heyday as an actor, and he would make, $50,000 to $100,000 per film. He never made more than 2 films a year because the top bracket started at $100,000, and he would have made 6 cents on the dollar. In other words, 6%. The rest, 94%, would have gone to the government. And he said, I'm not doing this. I'm not working that hard. So he would cut it off at one movie. Legend or story, actually, is true. He was offered a big blockbuster film. He turned it down. He said, I'm not going to make any money doing it. And so he learned from that. So when he became governor of California, then eventually, of course, president, he looked back and he said, what did high taxes do? He said, it stifled productivity. Mm-hmm. And so his whole philosophy was, if you lower taxes, people will produce more. And, the economics of the past, however many years, 50 years now or whatever, yeah, we've had good times and bad times, but taxes have not ever surpassed 40% top bracket since Ronald Reagan. And so even though we've had some increases, President Reagan had them in the low to mid 30s. They're up to 37, I think now. I'm going to go back to 39 and a half here in a couple of years. We'll talk about that. So what's the point? Well, the point is if you want to start thinking about getting out of some of these tax-deferred accounts, which are taxable in retirement when we can least afford it, now's the time. So that's kind of whenever I talk about taxes being on sale, they are, but it's not going to last long.
Can you speak a little bit more to that IRA? Why specifically to those kind of accounts? I think it was you who said the phrase before, it's like there's a mortgage on your IRA. Yeah,
I have to attribute that to Ed Slott, a very famous economist, that wrote a great book called The Ticking Tax Time Bomb. But it's about the fact that 80 to 90% of the wealth in this country is in pre-tax accounts, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, pension plans, defined benefit plans. All of these monies are before tax monies. And it's easy to see why. Number one, pensions have been around. Actually, they came to this country in 1759, I learned recently, okay? So they've been around a long time, and they've always been pre-tax, so that when you get your pension check, it's totally taxable or up to 95% taxable. Now, since that time, we've kind of done away with pensions, but we've introduced 401ks and IRAs and things like that. Well, it's easy to save in a 401k because it happens automatically at work. All you got to do is sign up for it. Sometimes you don't even have to do that. Plus, they put money in. So all that money is being put away, but again, it's pre-tax. And as you know, Evan, we call that micro thinking. We're thinking about this year I can save on my taxes. Well, what about the rest of your life? That's macro. We need to be thinking about macro. So all these years we've been saving money pre-tax. It's going to be time to pay the piper sooner or later. And that's retirement, 59 and a half or older is when you can start accessing these funds. And so we're on a fixed income, and part of that money, like you said, has a mortgage. Okay, so if I've got, let's say I have $1 million IRA. I don't have $1 million IRA.
Right.
Not all that belongs to me. Part of it belongs to the IRS. How much? We have no way of knowing, because I don't know what the tax rate is going to be when you start taking money out. And so that's like being a prisoner of the IRS. We are being controlled by the IRS, and I don't want that any more than I can help it, okay? And so that's why we're saying now might be the time to look at a tax strategy. In fact, you're running out of time. The Trump tax cuts, as you know, expired December 31st of 2025. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means the rates go back up to what they were before then. That's an average of a 22% increase in taxes for the average individual. I would want to do more about that now than later. And so I'm talking about anything from Roth conversions to converting IRA money to other tax-free type of accounts, shielding current assets from taxation. There's just so many different pieces of the strategy. And you know, Evan, as you know, when we teach our tax class, which is very popular, by the way, it's on our website, which you'll see here shortly, but we teach a virtual tax class. But what we talk about is the fact that tax law is written in pencil. So even though the Trump tax cuts expire at the end of 2025, they could change it before then, they could change it after that, but I can tell you this, I don't see it going lower. I mean, Social Security is going broke, Medicare is going broke, 80 million baby boomers are retiring, okay? What do? They take from the coffers of the government in a proper way. I'm just saying it's time to start paying what they've put away, Social Security, right? Medicare, right? So all of these things come into fruition. And on top of that, our government's beginning to think more and more about what can we give away. What socialist programs can we come up with? Hey, some of them are great, okay, but other times it's full of pork belly, right? Things that we're just giving away that we don't even know we're giving away, okay? Even the people in Congress don't know we're giving it away. And so we're at, what is it now, 31.4 trillion in debt, 32 trillion in debt. So it's a huge number. And so the only way you can handle that is raising taxes. You cannot cut enough programs to dig into the deficit. You cannot tax the rich enough to dig into the deficit. It's going to be on us, the middle class. Okay, so that's the problem. And that's why we're so adamant about this, because we are limited on the amount of time we have. We feel, and really the entire industry feels, that our time is limited to really be able to attack this aggressively.
So what's the plan? What do we do? How do we combat that? I mean, especially for someone in retirement. I heard once, it was probably you that said this as well, taxes may be the most volatile, dangerous thing to someone in retirement, more so than the market, or more losses at least. So what's the plan? Well, especially someone on a fixed income has to take RMDs. There's taxes coming out of that as well. What do we do?
Well, so everybody has to have their own plan. Okay, as you've heard me say before, and you've said it before too, is, there's a bookshelf in my office. I don't have 4 plans on it. Right. Okay, plan D works good for you, right, or whatever. Every plan is individualized, but you need to have a plan. So you start with a plan, and part of that plan has to be a tax strategy. There are some advocates out there of saying, I want every bit of my money after tax, tax deferred after tax. In other words, like a Roth. When that money comes out, it comes out tax-free. It doesn't matter what bracket you're in, right? And I would love that too, but it's going to be costly to get there for a lot of people. So I preach tax diversification. Some money can still be in IRAs and 401ks, but more money needs to be in Roths, more money needs to be in other tax-free vehicles, and some needs to be taxable, just like in a checking account, savings account, a brokerage account, because they all work differently. So if we have a balance of a third, give or take, okay, that's much better than where most people are, which is where they are 95% or more pre-tax IRA, 401k kind of accounts. And so it is I guess from practical terms, is sit down with somebody that is a holistic fiduciary planner that understands retirement planning, not just, hey, I'll invest your money, and making sure you've got every facet of that plan. And if one of those facets is not tax planning, you're missing out on about a third of the pie. Okay, so it's very important to have a plan. I wish I could sit here and say, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3. Not that simple, is it? Everybody has a different situation, a different age, a different need, a different amount in 401ks, a different mentality about taxes now versus later. So many different pieces that are moving around that we have to put together for our clients.
So a Roth conversion plan is a potential tax strategy. How do you plan for that? Do you do it all at once? Because really it seems like we're talking about the sunsetting laws. That's just a couple years down the road. Are we trying to get all this done before then?
So let me tell you the big problem. Okay, so what if you're 2 or 3 years away from retirement? So you're making a good income. Okay, $100,000, $150,000 a year. You've got a lot of money in pre-tax IRA, 401ks, and you want to get into the Roths, but your income's at $150,000, maybe your spouse is at $75,000. And if you start converting money to a Roth, you've got to pay taxes on it, right? When you convert it, so that's another tax hit. So hey, I think I'll wait 2.5 years until I retire, and my salary's lower, but now taxes are 20% higher. So it's definitely. I mean, we have software we use, and we have to gauge and understand where that particular client is. There are some that are willing to pay whatever they have to pay, even if it's the top bracket now, knowing that they are totally free from the IRS. There are other people that are saying, I don't want to be above the 24% bracket. So we'll juggle that money, okay? And we'll count. What does Social Security count toward your taxes, your income if you have it? Are you getting bonuses and commissions? All of this coming into play so that we can bump up against that bracket, but not go into the new bracket, right? And so it really is, and maybe after 2.5 years, maybe we'll get a break. Maybe they'll extend the Trump tax cuts another year or two. I don't see it happening with taxes, with our deficit. I don't see it happening. But as I've said before, Evan, tax laws are written in pencil. And so think about this, folks. Every 2 years, there are new people in Washington. So the House elects every 2 years, the Senate every 6, the administration, the presidential administration, every 4. So every 2 years, there's a new group of people coming in with new ideas, new thoughts,
hopefully
new bipartisanship. Well, new ideas about how can I make more money, I think. But so it's ever changing. I wish I could just say this is what it's going to be, but I know where it's leaning. So it really has to be an individual situation for sure.
Well, we want to take a moment, folks, just a moment to remind you that we do offer complimentary consultations at Master Plan Retirement Consultants. You can find information on our website, masterplanretire.com. There you can find multiple retirement resources, including links to our podcast and this video as well. Also, perhaps the most important is a link that takes you directly to Mark's calendar. And there you will find an opportunity to find a time that works best for you to schedule that conversation with Mark. That's just a one-on-one time. That could be digital Zoom meeting, that could be on the phone, or come to the home office in Marietta, Georgia. We'd love to buy you a cup of coffee. But that's basically, you get to ask your retirement questions. We can run some reports for you as well. Feel free to take us up on that. That's masterplanretire.com. Our office number is 770-980-9262. We really appreciate that, folks. Mark, before we took that quick pause, you mentioned about people trying to get into a lower tax bracket or possibly no tax bracket, which of course every time we talk about being in a zero tax bracket, it brings up the thought of that great book by David McKnight, The Power of Zero. Talk a little bit we have a couple of clients who are actually attempting to get to a 0% tax bracket right now.
Yep. Yeah, and I've got to call David. He's actually from this area, and I've met him several times. I've got to call. He owes us some money.
Yeah.
Because we talk about his book every other show. We really do.
We give away a couple at every seminar, I think, especially our tax seminars.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to attend one of our live workshops, we teach them all throughout the Southeast. Another thing to check on the website, by the way, is it under events?
Under events, yeah,
Yeah.
workshops and seminars.
Upcoming workshops, so make sure you do that as well. But yeah, so what David's whole take is, as well as another book that's been written that we've had the honor of writing the foreword for, talks about being so aggressive that all of your money is in either Roths, tax-free life accounts, and maybe a little bit of municipal bond funds, so that your only taxable income then in retirement is Social Security. Well, under a certain limit of income, Social Security is not taxable. And for a married couple, it's around $50,000 a year. And so that's your Social Security. You're at a zero tax rate. Now, let me add a little something to that. I have a feeling in the next 5 to 10 years, Social Security will be 100% taxable. Okay, so then you technically would not be in a zero tax bracket. You would, at least Social Security would be taxable. But even that is pretty powerful to know that no matter what happens, 80%, 60% of your income is tax-free. So it is possible to do that. If you meet with us and you say, I want some of that, I want that flavor, we'll get you there, okay? Just understand the next couple of years, you're going to be paying a lot of taxes, but you're going to be pretty much done after that.
It's an aggressive approach, and it's not for everybody,
No.
of course, but it is it's fun to dream.
And it is possible. It is possible.
That reminds me of a story of a non-client who we were talking to for a while. He would call Mark to just kind of pick his brain, and he got an itch, and he had a lot of money in IRAs, and just overnight he just flipped a switch and converted $1 million.
Was it the
IRA.
31st of December?
It was
or 30th of December,
like that.
something like that.
Yeah, it was a holiday. Yeah, I think it was the holiday.
Yeah.
And just flipped the switch and converted $1 million
I think $1 million.
IRA. Yeah, and his tax bill was $400,000.
It was
or something.
plus 400,000 plus because there's state taxes on there too.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and
you can do it.
And he was fine for a while until he got his tax bill and he had to stroke a check. That's not the way we do it, folks.
No.
We like to spread it out. We don't want to hit that top bracket if we can help it. So, that's called being aggressive for sure. One other thing too, Evan, important to remember, it's not just about the taxes. It's about required minimum distributions too. So as you know, the new Secure 2.0 Act says that the new required minimum distribution age is now 73. Okay, but what that means is any money in those pre-tax accounts, IRAs, 401ks, or whatever, you are required to take some of that out every year, and the percentage gets higher and higher. So whether you need the income or not, that's coming out. Okay, so if you got $1 million IRA, that first year you got to take out about 40 grand. Year two, about 45 grand, and that about within 10 years, over 100 grand's got to come out on top of whatever income you have, and so you're under that binding as well, that control. So by the more you get into Roths and tax-free insurance policies, those don't have required minimum distributions. So you do and take out what you want to take out. It also helps in inheritance. So if my kids inherit $1 million IRA, they've got to take it out within 10 years, which is taxable to them. Mm-hmm. If they inherit $1 million Roth, they still have to take it out in 10 years, but how much tax is owed on it? Zero. Okay, and so it's just so much more powerful. So it's so important. And let's, by the way, as we're running a little bit low on time here, let's not forget about the stealth taxes. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, we have federal taxes. Some of us have state taxes, right? What about capital gains taxes? Do you have a plan of getting out of that rental house that has $200,000 profit? Do you have a plan of getting out of that Coke stock or Home Depot stock that's got a $300,000 profit that if you sold it, you're going to owe 15% of $300,000, right? So that's $60,000 in capital gains. So how do you avoid that? Because listen to me, folks, capital gain rates are not going to stay at 15%. Okay, they are on the table in Washington now at making them ordinary tax rates. So if you're in the 24% bracket, that could be your capital gains rate. And they're thinking about getting away with a step up in basis. What does that mean? Well, I don't want to get too deep into that, but it means that, whatever your great grandfather paid for that farm is the basis, and what it's worth now is what you owe tax on if you sold it, okay? And that could go back 4 generations. That is going to be a nightmare, but it is on the table in Washington. So it's capital gains rates, it's estate taxes. Okay, if you pass away, your estate is taxable. Right now, it's not a big problem because the exemption, what is exempt from the tax, is very high. Trump tax cuts bring it back down to $5.6 million a person. Right now, it's on the table in Washington to lower that to $3 million. And it's not hard to have an estate worth $3 million by the time you add in a life insurance policy, an IRA, a few cars, a house, a residence, maybe a little lake house. You're above $3 million before you blink, okay? So that's got to be dealt with. We have a plan for that. And then the little things you don't think about, sales tax. We don't really look at our bill, but the sales tax and we keep coming up for a vote. Oh, we want to improve highways. You just hit a pothole on the way in. I want these roads paved. You raise those taxes. Your cable bill, all these other things, your property taxes on your property, they've all gone up this year because of house values. And so these are all things that, now a lot of these things we can't do anything for unless you want to move to a state with lower property taxes or sales taxes, right? So maybe finding a place to retire, we can help a little bit with that. But definitely capital gains, estate taxes, federal taxes are the three main areas that are going to substantially increase in the future.
So today we've been really talking about tax planning, but like we said, we talked a little bit about RMDs and the taxes that are spit off from that. That gets into a little bit of income planning. We talked about how tax planning and estate planning work together. Your beneficiaries, your inheritance that are passed on to the next generation. Mark talked a little bit about the step-up in basis and that kind of stuff. So you kind of see how all of these things work together. We're talking about taxes today, but you cannot help but talk about income planning, estate planning, other facets in retirement, Social Security planning, all the stuff. That's why you need a plan. That's why you need what is created, what we call a retirement roadmap, right?
Yep.
So, Mark, you want to talk a little bit about how those things work together and how we go about planning that for someone?
Yeah, just kind of big picture here. There are probably 12 to 15 areas that need to be considered for retirement. This is not our granddaddy's retirement anymore.
That all affect each other.
That all tie in, absolutely. And so if you ignore two or three, and those are the ones that trip you up, that could trip your entire retirement. So being holistic retirement planners, we're looking at every area. That's the reason for the reports we run for you. Those 7 to 9 reports are complimentary, and they will show you which areas will affect you the most, which if we decide to work with you and you decide to work with us, will show us kind of a direction of which we need to go in. And so maybe taxes is not your biggest problem. Maybe it's your second biggest problem. Maybe your first biggest problem is the fact that your accounts are not being properly managed, and every time we have a bear market every 5 years, you lose between 30 and 50%. Maybe that's your biggest problem. Maybe you don't have sufficient income. Maybe you don't have a pension. All you have is Social Security. Where's that income coming from? Well, I hope you don't plan on taking out a 401k or an IRA that rides the market up and down, because if you're taking out $2,000 a month and the market drops 30%, you'll probably never recover. So there's so many pieces that come together.
Combine that with a high tax season.
Exactly.
It just compounds.
Exactly. It just compounds. That's a great way to put it. Yep, absolutely.
Well, folks, we are nearing the end of our conversation today. I just want to remind everyone that you can go to our website, masterplanretire.com, and schedule your complimentary consultation with Mark. Also, like Mark mentioned earlier, you can find our seminar schedule. Those are seminars live in person as well as webinars. So if you feel like staying in your pajamas one evening, you can join us online. Resources for retirement, retirement checklists, handouts. You can get a copy of Mark's book on the website. Check it out. A lot of resources for education, so we'd appreciate that. That's masterplanretire.com. Mark, any final words to sign us out today?
Well, I would visit the website and I would bookmark it, because it is a resource that every time you go back to it, there's something new on it. Okay, share it with your friends, your colleagues, because some people just don't get it. Some people just think, I'm just going to kind of float along. Everything will be fine. If this happens, I'll do this or that. We're good. And then you start running these reports, and they start seeing the actual numbers that if this happens, you may be done for. Okay, not life-wise. I mean financially life-wise. Okay, so why not have a strategy to take care of each of those areas? And then, that what people tell me that provides them more than anything is peace of mind. They don't wake up every morning in retirement worried about money because they have a plan. And if this happens, they know they have a plan for that. So I would just say bookmark that, masterplanretire.com, every resource possible, podcast, YouTube, the whole thing. The classes are important. And come see us. Schedule a time with me, check out the calendar, find a time that's convenient, and let's meet and chat about your situation.
Thanks, folks.
And by the way, don't forget, plan well and prosper. Take care, everybody.
This was Retirement Roadmap Radio with Mark Fricks of Master Plan Retirement Consultants. To schedule a complimentary consultation, go to masterplanretire.com or call 770-980-9262. Thanks for listening, and remember, plan well and prosper.